All right, it started.
What's
Mr.
going
Hip Hop
on?
Vegan, I go first. Mr. Hip Hop Vegan, a marvelous. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Marvelous here. What's up, everybody? And this will be the first of many that myself and the great hip hop vegan will be broadcasting to you. Many subjects, across many different topics. So we hope you enjoy, and please feel free to comment. Nothing is restricted, nothing is off limits, and we will definitely raise the bar for things you would have to think about and consider. Controversy, everything. We're gonna address so many things that we think that you all will have lots of enjoyment. There's one thing that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just named the video "Deception of the Mind." Deception of the mind can mean different things to anybody depending on what situation you're going through or what you believe in, or it's just things that seem real but are not real, like sort of like living in the matrix. So I decided just to name the video "Deception of the Mind" and see how people are getting uh, brainwashed, or sometimes people get positively brainwashed. So it don't matter which way, which direction you're going. That's why I have people like A Marvelous here. He's on a whole different level. He likes talking about things that sometimes I don't give a fuck, but he loves it. So today he can do what he wants to go through and go talk about. And
Okay. Well, that was funny. Um, no, but I can see why he says that because some topics can get out there. There are a lot of topics that I personally like because I think to some degree they're relevant. Um, for the most part. But I know we discussed like things like money and stuff. That's the only thing that matters. But there's one, I guess bullshit topic that I we could briefly go over.
before you start, I want to ask you one question.
Go ahead.
Why does it seem like something happens in the world, or something comes up in the news, people want to think is a conspiracy theory? For example, somebody like Cat Williams that we were talking about earlier. It seems like every time something happens to him, people say that he really didn't do that stuff. The Illuminati is playing with him, or just certain situations like that. No matter what happens, um, is always a conspiracy theory behind that. Why you think things like that always come out? Like every situation that happens is a conspiracy theory.
Um, well, I personally think because if you just look at just the history of this country, that it's I don't like the word conspiracy. I think that word has been like used and abused. Illuminati, conspiracy, all of these things have been blown up to kind of take away from things that happen. You know, but I think that's the case because things don't just happen. I remember a while ago in high school there was a book called The Unseen Hand, and that was the first time I think I got to looking at things events, and it was saying how all the wars were not started based on what we thought or were taught in school. And I said, well, damn, I thought, this entity or country attacked another one and that was that. But after reading the book, you realize that none of these wars factually and historically started how we're taught. It just makes you think, okay, what else out there is like that, you know?
And I also was reading a quote, a picture that I seen that got this big bad bully that here in America we do things purposely, But on the other side, what happened to other countries that are considered the same? Um, five-headed monster, or whatever you want to call it, like China and Japan. Isn't that people want to point the finger at America, but aren't other countries too in the same predicament as causing the same amount of trauma and problems to their people?
That's a good question. Well, let's look at that, right? We mentioned China, and we mentioned a few other countries. But even with that, you'll always see that there's some kind of connection, you know. What connects different countries from around the world? Then you have entities like the IMF, you have entities like the World Bank, and you say, okay, let's take it out of America, right? Let's just say there's other countries that act in a way that's not favorable. But you also see that those same countries are linked to America and they have parallel activities that also damage their citizens and the people that live there, you know? So I don't think it's just an America thing. I think it's just people that are in power, and people that are in power communicate with other people that are in power around the world, and they all have the same interest. That's to keep power, and anyone that threatens it is in trouble. You know, so that's why I think that it's not just America, and I don't think things just happen. You know, whether you see it on, if I watch The Simpsons, and years before they have an episode of um, advertisers knocking on Homer's door, right? And saying, "Oh, we noticed that you've killed a celebrity. You're pretty good with that. We would like you to kill some more because they're not cooperating," right?
Mhm.
And you see one of the people that Homer's paid to kill is Prince. I mean, you could laugh at that, but you know, it's just a coincidence. You know, someone like
But
Fife from Tribe Called Quest, yes, he was sick and he died, but you know, someone like Prince, it's just, it's just different, man. Come on, it's always a coincidence with these people.
a bunch of stories going around with Prince. People say about him owning his masters, and just hearing different news articles. He was a great person. He was a giver, and he really talked about all the charity events that he did and stuff like that. But on the other flip side, they also say that he was the type of diva asshole type that he walked around with a security guard and that nobody can talk to him. They had to talk to the security guard first before they can talk to him. So it can be a conversation between me and you, front of your face, and I say, "Hey, Prince, how you doing?" And he wouldn't say nothing. The security guard would talk for him. So why do you think something like that? Even though he was a good person, why do you think people like that? Like, he had that. I don't know, that stigma that he was better than other people to the security guard before you can talk to him. And that's just stories I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I actually think that might be, not saying that all successful people are like that, but I think that might be a trait of certain successful people. You know, I read somewhere where Donald Trump doesn't like to shake hands. You know, um, Michael Jackson used to wear a mask around his face. So I think at certain levels, certain people guard themselves, and we all know that people can be contagious with the way they think and the way they act, and I think that can affect people. So when you get to a certain level, there's a certain level of protection that you take in guarding yourself and your thoughts. And plus, Prince is a icon. He's a global phenomenon. So who knows the type of stuff he's dealing with? For the man to write slave on his face and change his name to a symbol, you have to ask yourself what's going on around him for him to take these actions. You know what I mean? So a lot of stuff just might be a protective mechanism, or it could just be him. He could just be an asshole, you know?
So if he was such a why did it take if they did murder him, why did it take so long for them to kill him? He was what, in his 50s, right? Which is still young. But why do you
Yeah,
think
he was in his 50s. Um,
why do you think it took so long for them to get rid of him if it was one of those type of situations where somebody did kill him?
well, there is there's a book called, and I'm going to try to tie it in, called Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah,
And
pretty good book.
that's a pretty good book. And I bring that book up because basically that book shows how, entities like the IMF, governments, they have this get down or lay down type of mentality where you either play our game or we will kill you or take you out. So I bring that book up to say that when it comes to planning to kill someone at a high level in politics and finance, it has to be done right. It has to be done properly where there's no leaks, and therefore with timing and cycles. So if it takes planning for a certain amount of time in order to execute it efficiently and properly, then there's no time that's too long for something to happen if that's the end result. So whether it's 5 or 10 years, I just think that it's a matter of proper planning. And also, I'm gonna tie this into your other question. It's planning and cycles, and everything has to be done according to a season. I wouldn't try to grow vegetables in the winter. You know what I mean? So I have to do it at a certain time, and the time that people deal with are uh, historical events have significance. Um, Dealing with things where stars and things like that, people at a high level, they deal with that. There's a quote by, I think, J.P. Morgan, and he said that millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. So when you get to a high level, you start to plan things on a higher advanced level and methods than regular people do. So that's why I think that happened with Prince.
Now we were also talking before we got on here. You had a subject you wanted to talk about the detector from that showed the Wire news, and he just got arrested. You can tell everybody what you thought about it and who he is and why you think happened to him happened.
Okay. Well, let me say this. He may have did it. You know, I'm not excusing him or anything. I could only go off.
Yeah,
I, I could only go off of what's out there. So what happened was he was at a hotel with his girlfriend, and he got into a political discussion with this lady, and the two people
oh,
that
so it
she.
wasn't his girlfriend that he hit?
Nah, it wasn't his girlfriend that he hit.
Okay.
Yeah. So the domestic abuse is safe. So they were talking, and apparently the conversation got heated. So they took it up to the floor, I guess that the lady that he was talking to was on, and it got so heated that they came. He followed them to their room. I guess that's where the conversation was going. And long story short, the lady claims that he attacked her, hit her in the head, dragged her hair, and tried to force his way in a hotel room. So apparently he's saying that's not exactly what happened. They tried to force him in the room. He got arrested on Saturday, and then he got bailed out for like $1,000. The reason why it stood out to me was because I remember an old interview that he did on Bill Maher, where he was talking about the biggest crime in America has been slavery, and we don't deal with that. And he said the original beheadings were the lynchings. And I'm like, wow, that's the first thing that popped in my mind is that whenever someone speaks out, something happens. We never heard of this happening prior to. So then I started remembering the other shows he was on, and he's an activist. When Katrina happened, he started a program, and he's built like 40 homes in Pontchartrain where he's from. So the guy's an activist. He's a community builder. So
Also, Louisiana.
yeah, he's from Louisiana. He's from Pontchartrain. Ironically, Pontchartrain is the first black suburb to be built after the World War II. So the reason why I say look out for him is because there's a history of things happening to people if they're activists and if they speak out. And
Let me ask you a question.
go ahead.
Everybody like really hears it, or maybe some people do, but does people really care what he talks about? Like, I mean, does the government or the people with power really care what he's talking about since he's not really that big of a painter or icon? Like what would be the whole point of just locking him up for?
Okay, well, you don't really have to be a super icon to make waves. You don't have to be super big in order to kind of push buttons and do things when you're not supposed to do them. I'm sure there's a lot of people that we don't know that are arrested for their views. Or I mean, how many people knew Asada Shakur when she first did what she did? You know, she became that she was. The same with Huey Newton. You know, these people, they grow into who they are. So it's not about, I don't think, being a mega star. I think it's more so what you're into, you know, and what you're doing maybe behind the scenes that everybody doesn't see.
So now
Again,
these days,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead. No, go
I'm
ahead.
not saying that he did anything or or something was done to him or he's being set up. I'm just saying, you know, while it's still early on, that's what jumped out to me. And I think it might be a possibility, you know?
But don't you think now with like YouTube and with all these platforms, these social media and these platforms, don't you think all these information as far as um, like the Illuminati, stupid shit like that, don't you think it's like watered down compared to how it used to be, or maybe because more people know about it? But in my opinion, I think everything is watered down now. Make one mistake, you're in Illuminati, So where does it get to the point where it's okay to be successful and you're not in the group, the power group, such as a Jay-Z, he's successful. Why do they put him in a point where he's down with the Illuminati? Or any high-powered group, and he's black, so does it even make a difference?
Well, I think that's dumb. I think the people that automatically put them in the Illuminati category are kind of simpletons, you know? They're kind of short-sighted, and I do think it is watered down. That's why, you know, that's the negative side of stuff like YouTube is that anybody has a voice without doing any kind of research. They automatically put, huh?
People can cut and paste so much, and technology is so good right now that you can put anybody in any place and make people think it's believable. Exception right there, where the internet and will make anybody bigger than what they really are, So
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, all right, let me say this, right? Let's just say stuff happens. Let's say there is no kind of no agenda. Everything just happens organically, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we explain historically something like Black Wall Street? You have a thriving location, everybody's minding their business, right? Let's just say things just happen, right? There's no YouTube, there's no Facebook, you know, none of that. Just straight newspaper. You know what I mean? No television, none of that. You got a group of people, right, in this black neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're building their businesses, they're not committing crimes. Everything is happening just as it happens. How do we explain something like that where you have individuals that bomb the location? They don't just shoot it up, they don't just steal, they take planes and bomb this thriving black community. So, wait, and this is just constant examples. So, if I'm to believe that things just happen, how do we explain stuff like this historically when it goes down? And I'm to believe that it just stopped happening now.
Me personally, I can't comment on that because I'm in the same position as you are. That was intentional. They blew that place up intentional. Now, period, that time period for black folks were periods of all time, and they did that on purpose. They see people of color who they knew could produce, and I can't argue that one.
You sure? I mean, it could be a conspiracy theory, right? Maybe,
Oh no,
maybe it didn't happen. Huh?
no, that's you can prove that. That
Well,
you can prove.
but how could we prove it? We wasn't there, right? It wasn't, you know, how could we prove it's no YouTube?
That time who were living in Oklahoma, who were in that Black Wall Street, who are still living today. Am I correct?
Oh, so you're saying that we have to have eyewitnesses then? Maybe they're lying. If they're black, you know they're going to be on the black side.
It was proven that they were living at that time. So
How is it proven? We're talking about conspiracies and what is. How is it proven? Maybe it was all a dream and it didn't happen.
is boring to me, man.
No. But how do we know?
I know for a fact.
How do you know? You wasn't there. I wasn't.
No, but I can't argue that one, man.
Oh, now
No,
I bring that up to say this, right? That obviously happened, even though we wasn't there. There was no YouTube, no television. But
now can you compare Black Wall Street to Cat Williams?
okay, well, why did they bomb this place? Maybe they attacked the people that destroyed their neighborhood. Maybe they got what they deserved. Yes.
They got no. No,
No, I'm asking, did they get what they deserve? Were the people in black, and I'm gonna make a point here to now. Maybe they antagonized the people around that thriving location, and therefore the neighborhood getting destroyed and bombed and killed. Maybe that was in retaliation to trouble that they started. What do you think?
opinion,
Yeah.
jealousy. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Oklahoma. Uh, I think they have. I think where Black Wall Street was situated, I think they had great land, and I think maybe the people were jealous of their land and what they were creating. Because if I'm not mistaken, they had their own newspapers. They had their own, real estate. I'm pretty sure they had their own shops. I think it was more jealousy than anything else. And I'm not racist or nothing, but anywhere Europeans go, they destroy everything they see. So
Okay. So now I didn't want to go there, but bringing us, and I'm gonna.
it's not being racist; it's just facts.
It is. So why would that change today? Because we have YouTube.
But I think, okay, you know what? America now to what New York is now. New York back in the days, people wouldn't even go to Times Square back in the days, and now New York City is Hollywood. So I think back in the days, the U.S. was hard, but now I think it's just the U.S. is Hollywood. There's too much money out there to be able to destroy somebody. Well, not no. Let me take that back. People destroy somebody, they want something from them.
Okay. Okay. That's a good point. So you're saying that because there's more money now flowing, that it wouldn't be worth the time to destroy someone.
I think it's just harder to hide it now. Like there's so much cameras everywhere. I think it's just so hard to hide things. Now people can see that wow, cops are beating up people because they can see it now. Back in the day, a cop can just say no, I didn't hit them, but now we see it. But is it a difference being made? No, I mean they're still getting away with it. So, but I just don't. In my opinion, I just don't focus and stuff like that.
You don't think it's relevant.
Right now, no,
Okay. And I think that's I,
because I'm not to forget the past because history repeats itself. But then you see people like let's say a Diddy or a Jay-Z and what I see in the black community, I made a video about this. Black people put their own people down before a white elite will put their own people down, and I don't get that.
there's reasons for that though, because white people.
He would be bougie, but Bill Gates would just be an awesome entrepreneur. Why is that?
Oh, definitely, because Caucasians have an unwritten code that they automatically know. When Caucasians are amongst each other, there's certain protocols that they don't violate. They don't put each other down in public as much. You watch the news, you watch someone black get in trouble. What is the first thing that you see in the news? They automatically get someone else black to discourage that person. You know, Caucasians, they don't do that as much. They have a rule where they keep everything hidden. They keep everything on the end, infighting. For an example of that, no, look at Donald Trump, right? Now, we say that everything is out in the open, but as soon as Donald Trump mentioned Ted Cruz's father being with Lee Harvey Oswald, all of a sudden now that was something that not that many people knew. And then what happened shortly after he said that? Cruz dropped out. So that was something as old as it was that not that many people knew, and it was big news. So I think it's a lot of stuff is still hidden, you know.
Now there are conspiracy theories saying that Oswald didn't do it. So what would be the difference? It's like contradicting each other, you know?
Well, that's gonna get into a whole nother subject. I don't know if we want to take it there, but
'Cause a couple more minutes. It's been like almost an hour, yo.
yeah, right.
Right now for the first video.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna address all of these other questions in other videos too. Just to tie that last one up though, black people are still in a sense, um, black people have not learned the art of infighting, and they have not learned how to deal with so-called black issues publicly, you know? Plus, Caucasians have had hundreds of years of infighting. That's why you see Game of Thrones and show like Tudors. All of that is explaining to you how white people are learning each other and how they've mastered no longer fighting out in the open and keeping it secret. So I think after hundreds of years of black people doing that post-slavery, they'll get it down pat.
Game of Thrones?
It is, actually.
Is you Game of Thrones?
No, I mean a lot of so-called conscious people don't like Game of Thrones, but I like it because it shows how Caucasians rose to power, and plus that show um is a direct parallel to what's called the Plantagenet family, which is where all of the kings in England stem from, that one family. So that show shows how Europeans came into power, and that's the beginning of that story. So yeah, it is my ringtone. It's fly.
All right. You can leave the people with one lead before you go. One thing that you think would be something great for somebody to take away from this whole video.
Learn to look at things from many angles before arriving at a conclusion, and always ask opposing questions on a lot of things. This way, you can come to your belief system will be more structured as opposed to loose.
Sounds good, man. Thank you for being on this video. Um, we're gonna make many more. Once a week, we're gonna start right now. Just a quick live talk. Pick different subjects and stuff like that. And my one thing is, you gotta listen. Don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything a Marvelous say. Go do your own research. We can be bullshitting and we might be wrong. So do
Yep.
your own research also. So we'll come back and one.
Thank you for having me.
Peace.
Peace.